What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bridging the Geekdoms. I am your host, Robert Slavinsky, and, well, right now I'm kind of by myself. Seems to be the trend lately, isn't it? That's all right. We'll get things going, and we will talk about some very peculiar things today. But before we get into all that, let me explain how the show works. The first 20 or so minutes usually is dedicated to a few hot topics of the week. These can consist of newsworthy items, reviews, reactions, so on and so forth, that we feel are important enough to discuss. After that, the remainder of the show is dedicated to a main topic. Oh man, this week's main topic is the current state of Star Wars and how it is currently perceived. And I tell you what, I've been wanting to do this main topic for a few days now, or a few weeks now, actually a couple months really. But I've been trying to figure out the best way to handle this, and I figured, you know what the hell, I'm just going to go at it for sure this week. So this should be an interesting episode, especially once we get into the main topic of Star Wars. But before we get to there, let's talk about a couple things that have popped up over this past week that kind of interesting, I guess. So the first thing, Fantastic Four possibly has found a director. A director in Matt Shakman, who, if the name sounds familiar to you, he is the one who directed every episode of WandaVision. He's also done some things with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and even Game of Thrones. So it seems like he is either the front runner or has already been tapped to take on the Fantastic Four film. I really wish that they could have gotten someone like a Steven Spielberg. I know that was a pipe dream. I know it was a pipe dream. It would have been amazing to see someone like Steven Spielberg take on Marvel's first family, but that's not what's happening here, I guess. However, while this does come from the Hollywood Reporter, it's not 100% official yet because Marvel nor Disney nor Matt Shakman have come out and said, hey, this is what's going on. However, I do expect that to happen at D23. I really do. D23 is what? Crud. I can't remember when D23 is now. D23 2022 is Friday, September 9th through September 10th. So that's next weekend. Is that next weekend already? Holy shnikey. So that's when I think we're going to find out. I think not only are we going to get a director, but we're going to get the cast as well. The cast rumors have been heating up for quite some time. And I tell you what, he's got the strings to pull here, Matt Shakman does. He should really just hire the entire It's Always Sunny gang. Imagine them as the Fantastic Four now. Honestly, though, the cast has been rumored for a number of weeks now. Jason Segel, the guy from You, people like Zac Efron, different types of characters or actors have been mentioned. Obviously, people want Emily Blunt and what's his face from The Office. I can't think of names right now. I'm terrible. But I think we're finally going to know what's happening come next week in regards to the Fantastic Four. I'm excited about it because those last two attempts at Fantastic Four, while the last one was absolute shit, the two before it, which were, the first and the sequel back in the mid 2000s, the mid aughts, I should say, they were a lot of fun. I mean, they're a quintessential part. Like, you can tell they are from that time period when it comes to superhero films. But when all is said and done, I mean, if you really think about it, those movies aren't as bad as a lot of people say they are. So, I mean, I am looking forward to see what they do here because I really think that the Fantastic Four can be done really, really well within the MCU. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you guys think of Matt Shakman, quite possibly, probably going to be the director of the Fantastic Four film. Who do you think the cast is going to be? I want to know who you think the cast is going to be. I know that I have a few people that I would like to see. I'm still gunning for Zac Efron to get a superhero role in some form or fashion. Johnny Storm, I think, would be really cool for him if he's not going to show up in the DC universe, which he was always my first pick for Shazam. But if he's not going to be in the DC universe, I think Johnny Storm would be perfect for him. But let me know your thoughts on anything and everything Fantastic Four in the comments. Moving on to our second hot topic and our final hot topic of today. Can we go a week without talking about it? Honestly, can we? Well, this one isn't actually that bad of news. Ezra Miller supposedly has met with Warner Brothers Discovery leadership in the Flash course correct. It says here the meeting on Burbank Lot between the actor and their agent Warner Michael DeLuca. Actually, hold on a second here. Hello there.
Well, hello there.
Hello there. What's going on, Ken?
Hey, what's up, man? My job. We're on recess at court right now. So, yeah, if you hear me suddenly hang up, it's because my boss is here, but it's to spare. So I knew I couldn't join the whole show. Pop in, and it seems like we're talking about my entire bridging the Geekdoms career. I'm glad I was able to pop right in right at the right time.
Yeah, look at that. But yeah, Ezra Miller apparently has met with Warner leadership in hopes that they will, one, not cancel The Flash and probably save face with leadership so he doesn't get ousted as The Flash. So what do you think of all this? Do you think this is something that actually occurred? I mean, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, so I'm sure it's legit, but what do you think of all this?
That's occurred. Now, my statement is, were we expecting any if I'm Ezra Miller's agent doing is trying to repair my relationship with Warner Bros. So I think this is something that I had a couple of weeks ago in terms of the scenarios that were in terms of how Ezra Miller would be able to be even pushed out of the fold, but I think it's a problem, and it does seem like we're trending on the right way now, because we'll have to wait and see how the rest of it pulls. The first couple of good initial steps to kind of getting to the forefront of the marketing department in this movie, but that market bold for the movie.
Yeah, I think, I'm still sticking with my theory that mystery event film in February is going to be The Flash. I'm sticking with it until I'm proven wrong. But this could be a step in the right direction. And the big reason why I think that this could have been leaked or given to the Hollywood Reporter that this happened is this is the start of them course correcting and saying, okay, we're getting on the right track to get this marketing ramping up for the Flash film, because it's coming out in 6 months as opposed to 10 or 11 months from now. And I think that's kind of the big deal with why we should look at this as a big deal. I think if October comes and they haven't started some minor pushing for this film in some form or fashion, even if it's like a little tease or something, if October comes and goes and we don't see anything yet, I would say my theory is probably wrong, but I think by then we're going to know what's coming out in February. So I hope I'm right. Because I think
that would be fascinating. I think that would be something kind of leading in Warner Bros. Discovery's recent, I think.
Well, they need a win right now, and after canceling so many things and showing like, hey, this, we're doing this to the company to save the future, it's aggravated fans. Yeah. And I think if they were to say, you know what, bring in the Flash earlier, I think it would excite people.
Shifting of Aquaman makes this kind of lost over last week, but that think it's extremely interesting what's going on. Fans should definitely tune in because it looks like major changes haven't even occurred yet. So exciting to think that event film. I think it was the Mounts of I'm entirely sure, but I think it would generate a lot of hype and buzz around him. It has just been dealt bad news after bad news. The director leaving after director leaving. So stableness behind this project would really help as a whole and moving forward.
Yeah, I think it would go a long way for them to make a move like that. Now, obviously, is the film ready? There's a lot of talk right now saying that they're doing a lot of post production on these movies to help set up a new 10-year plan. So is that something that they're doing with the Flash film? Because that's part of the reason why Aquaman got pushed back. And from what I understand, Shazam is disconnected enough that they don't need to do too much there. Black Adam's pretty much almost on the shelf waiting to get released. So is that why they're going to just let it go till June? I don't know. But I think this is pretty huge for Ezra Miller to come back, or not come back, but come out and say, look, at least go to leadership and apologize to them. I think he still needs to come out publicly. I think he needs to come out for his fans and for the fans of the Flash and the DCEU. He needs to come out and say, look, I apologize. This really...
Well, I definitely think in terms of admitting that he needs the help and then going out the chart moving release of the Flash in the right direction towards what you were just alluding to, which is whether it's in an interview, whether it's in just public statement, kind of expressing his, what was going on and be what the future holds.
Yeah. I think nothing.
I'm a good one.
As long as he stays on the right path and he doesn't do anything to get himself in the news again, like he's been, I think this is a start into everything moving in the right direction for him, for the character, for the universe. Let's just hope that it stays that way. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that it doesn't backfire on anyone that he's doing this.
I join you on that, and I genuinely hope that statements being released are true, that Ezra Miller is really he needs, and that Warner Bros. Discovery a mutually beneficial relationship between the two. It's also helped them in terms of releasing the Flash movie. This is in good faith right now, and to theater near you is the Flash at some point, right? Like there's no way they would cancel it.
No, they're not going to cancel the Flash at this point. I think they're going to retool it however they need to. And like I said, I hope I'm sticking with my theory that it comes out this February. I'm hoping that they push it early, but even if it doesn't come out till next June, it's coming out in some form or fashion. Whether Ezra stays on as the Flash after that, I think is to be seen. I think it's how he handles himself from now until it's released, and even after it's released, until they green light a sequel. Yeah. So that's where I think it stands at this point.
I think the road he's currently on is not even released. It's kind of saving his future point, because Flash pretty much, and it's going to be interesting what they really decide to do for the character himself. And hopefully these are steps in the right directions, but obviously
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're gonna move on from there. Hey, let us know in the comments what you think of Ezra Miller, about these reports that he has gone and apologized to leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery. Do you think the Flash could come out sooner? Do you think it's just never going to come out? Let us know in the comments everything that you think. What is going on with my background here? Let's throw that one up for now. There we go. And yeah, all that jazz. Let us know in the comments below. Oh, man. So, I'm going to get into the main topic here. I didn't have too many off the top since we just did a show on Thursday. We're going to be moving to Mondays for the foreseeable future. due to my kids having soccer now over the next couple months.
We just shift
fall soccer, always
the
something
show
with kids.
schedule. Yeah, shift the show schedule according to for the, I guess, designated season. So state the spring and the summer for new release dates. But
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying there, but sure. Your connection isn't really good right now, Ken. I don't know. Yeah, it dropped quite a bit. All right. So let's get over to the main topic. So this October, this fall, will mark the 10th anniversary since Disney purchased Lucasfilm and with it took control of Star Wars. And I have to say, the biggest takeaway over the last 10 years, at least in my opinion, has been how divided the fan base has become during this time. This isn't to say that prior to the Disney purchase, there weren't divisive elements, but the sequel trilogy had a lot to do with why or the way the fan base split and how we as fans perceive the franchise currently. So I kind of want to get into the state of Star Wars and where it is at right now, because honestly, I don't like where it is. And I've talked over the years, we've talked about Kathy Kennedy and the way she's been handling Lucasfilm and Star Wars. And, they need to get a writer's room and they need to do this and they need to do that. But when it all comes down to it, she's been there for 10 years and we're not any better than we were 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Yeah, we have all these projects that have been released and most of them have been subpar. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. What are your thoughts on that, Ken?
All right. Is my connection better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so dead zone right now. But before I probably would have to go. I think we talked about this before, but I just think this is in shambles at the moment, to be completely honest with you. Make fans panic, but I just think that more on the small screen rather than the big screen right now. I heard the word nature of Star Wars as a whole, but with the Mandalorian and a couple that, but it's gonna be really interesting to see this new series, and the series I'm really looking forward to. The name of it is. I think that gives us more of a really very little about in the current iteration. I think while there's things in the future to be, I'm not too sure if the big screen plan will be clamoring over each other to see. But I'm honestly on this.
Okay. Yeah, your connection isn't great. It's kind of popping in and out here. But anyway, I have to say, over the course of the last few years, we've been getting hyped up for different things and different ideas that we could be getting some amazing content from Star Wars. But what's always worried me is just the public, the very public issues that have plagued the franchise over the last 10 years. Some of the publicly known issues, especially with the directors. You take a look at what happened with Josh Trank. Now, we know Josh Trank had his issues when he was making Fantastic Four, and it's rumored that those issues kind of trickled up to Kathleen Kennedy and management. They didn't want to have anything to do with him, so they ousted him and cut him loose, and his Boba Fett film that he was supposed to make got canned because of that. But then you have what happened with Gareth Edwards with Rogue One. Gareth Edwards shot an entire film. He was a hot up-and-coming director coming right off of Godzilla, which a lot of people really enjoyed. Granted, it's not the greatest of the MonsterVerse films, but it is enjoyable. And he was coming out of that, and people were excited to see what he could do. And even the trailers and the quick teases and the previews that we saw for this film, for Rogue One, just looked phenomenal. We were going to get a war film. Finally, a gritty war movie. Well, they end up ousting him and having another director come in and reshoot the third act of the movie plus some more. Now, that's going to be the man who's heading and kind of running the Andor series. I can't remember his name right now, but you take a look, like, why are they not trusting Gareth Edwards? Why are they not allowing him to finish? What was so bad about that? Then you have the Lord and Miller controversy with Solo, where Lord and Miller comes in and they're making a movie. They're directing a film. And for some odd reason, Kathleen Kennedy and management decide, oh, this is not the movie we want to make, and let them go and reshoot the entire film, which rumor has it was around 50% complete, if not more. And they have Ron Howard come in, which he's a great director, and reshoot the film and release it under his guidance. You then have Rian Johnson, who, by all accounts, was probably the only director who did not have a lot of issues or controversy surrounding him prior to the movie coming out. They gave him full control, it seems, with The Last Jedi, which, in my opinion and many others, may have been the wrong move to make. But after his film became so divisive and people were just fighting over this film, the announced trilogy that he was going to develop, and mind you, he was developing a trilogy. It wasn't said that he was going to direct or write it all. He was developing a trilogy, who he was going to work with other directors and writers in making it go forward. And that's something that a lot of people forget that was in that main announcement, is that he was going to guide this team. He was going to create this new story. He wasn't going to be the writer or director as he was for The Last Jedi. But where's that at? I was told almost 2 years ago that, hey, it was still on track. Since then, I've heard nothing. It's crickets. Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins had a movie. They were all excited. Rogue Squadron. Did a crazy announcement video for it. And they do this announcement video. Wonder Woman 84 does absolute horribly. And about 6-7 months later, they come out and say, oh, you know what? Sorry, but creative differences, or we have to put it on pause, or it's getting delayed because she's doing other things. Little fishy to me. And even the darling, J.J. Abrams, had issues. He has the least talked about issues, but there are issues there. So much so with episode 7. He wanted to go in one direction. He talked to George Lucas. George Lucas didn't like it, so he wanted to go in another direction. Or he didn't like what George Lucas had to say, so he went in another direction. And it seems like, from what I understand, Kathleen Kennedy was actually on the side of George Lucas and trying to push his vision and his story forward, but J.J. Abrams wanted to go the other way. And it seems like Bob Iger was kind of, at the time, on J.J. Abrams' side. And because of that, there was some turmoil that happened within Lucasfilm with that movie, but they were on a tight schedule. They had to get that movie made. They had to get it done. So it wasn't like they could simply can J.J. Abrams and bring somebody else in at this point. No, they had to move forward, especially after all the issues they had with Michael Arndt and bringing in Kasdan and everything like that. There were all those issues that happened. They didn't have time. But then why did he come back for The Rise of Skywalker? Well, it's believed that all of those issues that happened were patched up. That they said, oh, you're going to have more time. which they did give him more time because they then delayed The Rise of Skywalker by 6-7 months. So they gave him a little more time. They then gave him a little more freedom to do what he wanted to do. But when it came to editing that film, when it came to what the final say was for that movie, there's a reason why out there is this movement, or this very small movement, of release the Abrams cut for The Rise of Skywalker, because his film was drastically different than what was released, according to many reports. So we sit there and we see, and we now realize that there's been all these issues with directors, with the creative talent at Star Wars and Lucasfilm, which has caused the lack of consistent content, consistently good, consistent in just consistent releasing, consistent in any way possible that you can think of consistency in. And that is an issue. Disney spent $4 billion on acquiring Lucasfilm. So you would think that they'd want to make that money back as quick as possible. One of the easiest ways for them to do that would be merchandising. The man who revolutionized toy sales when it comes to films, George Lucas, and he did it with Star Wars in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, the early aughts. Where was all the merchandise? Episode 7 had a shit ton of merchandise. I was excited. I went to Forest Friday. I was excited. Episode 8, there's less. Episode 9, you'd be lucky to find 5 or 6 pegs of toys at your local store, whether it's Walmart, Kmart, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know what they are these days. It's maddening that what Star Wars used to be, because you take away all the divisiveness, you take away all of what is bogged down Star Wars from an emotional level with the fandom. The one thing people always got excited about and got behind was the merchandise. And here we sit in 2022, and the merchandise that we do have is absolute trash. It is crap. And there's hardly any out there. Yes, I get that times have changed. I get that kids aren't playing with action figures like they used to. But you know what changes that? Proper marketing, proper handling of said merchandise, getting kids excited, giving kids a reason to get excited and want to buy the toys. Now, what does that tell you about the films? If you can't sell toys based off the movies, maybe your movies aren't all that damn good. That's one aspect that people don't really ever look at. For as much shit that the prequels get, for as much as people disliked the prequels, they sold toys. Because kids like me, I was a young teen at that time, 13, 14 years old. I collected the toys. When I was a kid in the 90s, and I was watching the re-releases of Star Wars, I wanted to buy the Power of the Force toys because it was Star Wars. And they were great. You had to have that Chewbacca. You had to find the Grand Moff Tarkin. You had to have the X-Wing, the Millennium Falcons. You had to have that stuff. What with the sequel trilogy has there ever been that you need to buy? Kylo Ren's lightsaber? That's about it. Nobody wants a Rey lightsaber. Nobody wants a Rey toy. Nobody wants a Finn toy, because they didn't develop these characters for people to care about. That goes in line with the poorly executed expanded universe, which covers everything outside of TV and film. So your books, your video games, your comics. Yeah, there's been a few here and there that have been pretty good. I mean, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. But here's the thing. There's a reason why people love the old expanded universe known as Legends right now. They weren't all great, but the stories that hit, the stories that people loved, they loved. You don't hear people talking about that with these books and comics today. You don't hear people saying, oh, you need to get the Aftermath series. It is phenomenal. No, but you know what you do hear? That Thrawn trilogy back from the late 80s or early 90s or whenever it was that Timothy Zahn did. Haha. You have to read that. That is the sequels that we needed. Oh guys, did you hear that or read that Darth Plagueis book? You don't hear that today with Star Wars literature. Again, that's not to say that there aren't some good ones out there. But when you really get down to it, it's not there. And this is where it gets controversial. They're woke social justice warrior agendas. It's there. It is there. I'm going to get called out for this. Anybody who hears this, watches this, they may call me out. They may unsubscribe to me. I don't care at this point because it's there. It is very relevant in The Last Jedi. Despite people wanting to deny it and say it's not there, it is absolutely there. Let's not forget that promoting The Last Jedi, promoting the big promotional aspect of The Last Jedi that they did, which was very minuscule because they thought, oh, it's Star Wars. Star Wars is going to sell, which it did. I mean, it made $1 billion, but I remember reading multiple articles. And one of the big things was Holdo is a lesbian. Like that was the big thing that they talked about. Let's not forget Kathleen Kennedy coming out on stage with the shirts, "The Force is female." I'm sorry. But if you're going to do that, that means you have no understanding of what Star Wars is and what the Force is. The Force is not female. It's not male. It's not anything. No. The Force is an energy force that surrounds us. It binds the world together, the galaxy together. So to come out and specifically say and wear shirts, the Force is female, you can't tell me that's not pushing an agenda. It is. And then for those people who criticize the sequels, which don't get me wrong, I enjoyed episode 7. And episode 9, I think, is just a good popcorn, mindless, semi-action flick. It has no substance to it. But for those who criticize those movies, they automatically get called out for being misogynistic or, female hating or what have you. You know why that happens, right? It's because they're not listening to what the people are saying, the critiques that people are giving about those films. The Last Jedi is not a great Star Wars film. It is a decent Rian Johnson film, but it is not a good Skywalker Star Wars movie, especially for a middle part. But people won't hear that. All they're going to say is, oh, you don't like Rey. And the reason why they say that is because they don't like what is going on. They agree with you, but you know what? I can't agree with them. No, you're just saying that because you hate women. You hate women. That's why you're saying that. And that's what happens. There is absolutely an agenda, and it's not just with Star Wars. It is with all franchises right now. All franchises are going in a certain direction, trying to push certain agendas in some form or fashion, and it is ridiculous, and it is uncalled for. But it has hit Star Wars. Maybe not as drastically as, say, Marvel or Star Trek or Lord of the Rings or whatever, but it has hit Star Wars. This isn't to say that we haven't had some good over the last 10 years. I don't want people to think that I'm just going to sit here and hate. We've had some fun and interesting projects over the last 10 years. But when you sit back and truly start to consider what we have seen during this decade, it's quite aggravating that it has become what it is right now. There's a lot of people that like to sit there and say, oh, well, Star Wars was built on social ideas and social justices and so on and so forth. And that you're right. But it was never about diversifying. It was never about, oh, look, this person's a lesbian. This one's trans. This one's this one's that. It was never about highlighting, which is something that, for as much as I'm excited about watching Andor, the fact that they've taken it and said, oh, well, this is just highlighting in a way of what we just experienced the 4 years prior to the current administration in America. That's not what Star Wars is. You know, some of the issues I've had outside of that, because I got to move on from that. But some of the other issues, you know, the way that they have been afraid to take chances with Lucasfilm and Star Wars. They're bowing down to the woke mob, the social justice warriors, but they're also afraid to take chances in ways that could excite fans. Let's take Solo, for instance. Solo came out, 6 months, 5.5 months after The Last Jedi. There was all this talk, oh, there's going to be Star Wars fatigue. First off, this whole notion and idea that there could be fatigue with a franchise is poppycock, it's bullpucky, it's bullshit, it's whatever you want to call it. Because take a look at Marvel. They have a movie every 3 months, and in between those 3 months, they have TV shows. And while, yes, there may be a little Marvel fatigue right now, they're still getting the ratings. They're still making hundreds of millions of dollars. This fatigue is not really prevalent. Take a look. Star Trek constantly has TV shows out. So this idea, this thought that there could be Star Wars fatigue is complete ridiculous nonsense. But Solo came out 5 months later. Now, don't get me wrong. There is some of that woke bullshit in Solo. But when you get past that, which there isn't much of, thankfully, it is an enjoyable film. I had a damn good time with that movie. It's still one of my favorite Disney era films. But they don't greenlight a sequel. They essentially shut down any talk about Solo. Granted, they screwed that all up when they did everything they did with Lord Miller. But here's the thing. They blamed the box office failure of Solo on Solo, when that's not the case. You want to know why they did it that way? Because The Last Jedi, which was a Skywalker film, main timeline, they couldn't make that look bad. Not to mention the SJW stuff within the movie. But they couldn't make that movie look bad, because if that movie was bad, if that movie, granted, made $1 billion, more than $1 billion, but if people didn't like that film, that would just throw everything out of whack. So Solo was the easy one to say, oh, that's it failed because Solo just wasn't a good movie. And that's not the case. That's not the case. One, they don't know how to market their films. Two, they handled everything incorrectly. And three, they fucked up with The Last Jedi. I think that's what it comes down to when it comes to the Solo debacle. So instead of saying, okay, well, let's take a chance. Let's see if it was because of Solo sucking or if it was The Last Jedi. Instead of doing that, they just said, you know what? Nope, scrap everything Solo, moving forward. Nothing else is coming. It's done. It's over. Let's move on. They did the same thing with Obi-Wan. Because when Solo failed at the box office, instead of realizing that it's not Solo's fault. There was an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie that was in the works. It was going to be a film, but because of what happened there, they axed it. And at the time, they didn't have a plan to make it a television show. No, that only came about 4 or 5 years later when Disney Plus got launched and they saw the success of The Mandalorian. And then they said, you know what? Why don't we take this idea here and throw it over as a TV show? And we all know how poorly that was executed. It was not as good as it should have been. And then you take a look now, we still haven't heard anything. But Taika Waititi, they hired Taika Waititi to come and do a movie. Because he was successful with Thor Ragnarok. He had some other successful films. I gotta say that World War II one with a little kid, it's a damn good movie. It was a good film. But he wasn't. You take a look at Thor Love and Thunder. Those are two totally different films. Jojo Rabbit, that's it. But he wrote, directed everything with Thor Love and Thunder. Same thing he's supposed to do with his Star Wars movie. It's a terrible idea. And I know I'm just sitting here saying, oh, Kathy Kennedy Lucasfilm doesn't take chances with Star Wars, but this is one that they should step back from. For as much as I don't like The Last Jedi, because I'm not a big fan of that film, I still would love to see a Rian Johnson trilogy that he develops, because he has great ideas. He has a solid understanding of Star Wars. Just the way that he brought it in with the Skywalker saga is not the best way to handle that. I'd rather them bring Rian Johnson back than utilize Taika Waititi. I wouldn't be surprised if they do come out in a few months and say, you know what, we're going to step away from Taika Waititi's Star Wars, or just do what they've done all the other times and just not say a damn thing about it. Because that's what they're really good at. They're really good at announcing projects and then never following through. They just don't follow through. Look, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done amazing over at Lucasfilm. We know Dave Filoni's been there since the George Lucas time, which has probably helped quite a bit. Rebels was great. Resistance, or is that what it was called? That wasn't great. It was a lot more childish than I think a lot of people wanted. The animation wasn't great either. But I think it was something that they wanted to try. It was something they wanted to try that was a little bit different. And I give them credit for that. It lasted 2 seasons. That's fine. The Mandalorian has been phenomenal so far with Favreau and Filoni. Book of Boba Fett, not so much. I'm interested to see what happens with Ahsoka. Because if you think about it, think of some of the great stuff that has come in the last 10 years. Rebels, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka's ongoing arc. Getting into the novels. You got Lost Stars. Video games. You got Jedi Fallen Order Jedi, whatever that's called. They couldn't have made a more confusing name, by the way. They've done some amazing things. But what they need to do is get back to basics. They need to push aside this idea of woke culture. They need to push that all aside, and they need to say what benefits the story, what benefits the franchise, what is something that people are going to want to hear, want to see, want to pay for. That is what they need to do. Once you get that basis down, you build the story and let the story lead where it needs to go. They always have a destination. They never know what the story to get to that destination is, and they're filling in as they go along. It was actually completely the opposite with the sequel trilogy. They had no destination. They never had a destination. Even when all was said and done, they had no destination. So they really don't know what they're doing. And look, Kathleen Kennedy is a phenomenal producer. She's been in the industry for 30 plus years, 40 years maybe at this point. You can't take away what she's done, all the great work that she's done. But the fact that they keep extending her at Lucasfilm, they look at that dollar sign at Disney. They look at that dollar sign and they say, oh, that movie made $1 billion. That movie made $1 billion. That one made near $1 billion. That one almost made $1 billion. Oh, look, people are loving The Mandalorian. Little do they realize that it's the Star Wars name that has done that for them. And if they continue going in the direction that they're going, that Star Wars name isn't going to have that weight anymore. It's not going to make $500 million because of the Star Wars name. It's not going to get high ratings on Disney Plus because of the Star Wars name. It's that simple. And I don't understand why people don't see that. I'm not the typical angry Star Wars fan. I'm not your typical, against the woke mob Star Wars fan. I don't want to see that crap in my movies because film in most cases is supposed to be an outlet getting away from the real world. That's what it's supposed to be about. But here's the thing. I've liked some of the stuff. I haven't hated it. But I know it could be better. Why do you think George Lucas has essentially just walked away from it completely? Yes, I know he sold it off. But do you really think if George Lucas called up Kathy Kennedy, was like, hey, I'd love to be a consultant, you really think they would say no to him? No, he walked away because they were taking it in a direction that he did not want to see it go. And I do feel bad for him because he trusted them. He felt that Walt Disney Company, the Disney company, Disney could take this in a direction that it could be bigger and more successful than it ever has been. And in a way, it did become that. No Star Wars film ever made $1 billion before The Force Awakens. But look at what the brand is now. Disney could not turn around and sell Star Wars for $4 billion. If a company bought Star Wars today for $4 billion, they're foolish. Because it's not worth that now. It's not. And it's a damn shame. It really is. Star Wars was the first blockbuster franchise. It was the first franchise that just, it grabbed you. It grabbed everyone. And they were like, look, we're not giving up. We're not letting go. And people have forgotten that. Or filmmaking is just too political now. I mean, that's definitely part of it. There's no getting away from that. Filmmaking is way too political these days, which is a damn shame also. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Star Wars used to be great. But Star Wars is just meh now. It's just meh. It is what it is. You know, I had a Star Wars show, Shooting the Sith. I still have it. I do things here and there. This will probably be segmented out and thrown onto that feed. But when you really think about it, what is there to talk about and get excited about for Star Wars lately? Another season of The Mandalorian. Woohoo! I'm excited about that. Nothing else is exciting. We have 3 films that were due to start coming out this Christmas, that it got pushed back to 2023, 2025, and 2027. Well, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get pushed back again. It's going to be 2024, 2026, and 2028. It'll get pushed back again because they don't know what the hell they're doing over there. They have no direction. They have no idea what they're doing. Why? You've had 10 years. 10 years. And you can't do it? You can't make a product that you can stand behind, be proud of. The Force is not female. The Force is not male. The Force is dying. That's what's going on right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really, really want to hear your thoughts in the comments. I really do. I hope there's some people that grab this and run with it, because I do want to hear your comments and your thoughts, because I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. This stuff needs to be said, and it needs to be said with a level head. You know, I know there's other YouTubers and there's other people out there who everybody has an agenda. Everybody does. I get that. And the people that are out there that are yelling at the woke mob and yelling at all the social justice warrior crap that's in Star Wars, yeah, they get a little heated. But it needs to be said. It needs to be heard. It's happening. It is happening. You know, and it's the crazy thing is this stuff is happening without us, many people, realizing it. You know, I'll harken back a little bit to Marvel here. I'm watching She-Hulk right now, and I don't hate it. I'm enjoying She-Hulk. I caught some of the man bashing and man hating references in the first 2 episodes. But then I went back and I was watching it again, and there's more than I caught the first time around. But it's so subtle that you don't catch it at first glance. Or it just, because you get so used to what they do, you kind of just overlook it. But honestly, Star Wars should be better off. It should be better than where it is now. And that's a damn shame that it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say they need to fire Kathleen Kennedy, but they need to do something. They need to find a way to right that ship. The sequels happened. I'm a supporter that they can make the sequels better after the fact by building stories post the sequels, or even, well, they can't go between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, but they can go in that little time frame between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. They can build some things there, make things a little more interesting. I think they need to shift the focus to Finn. He was the far more interesting character out of that trilogy that was shortchanged. He got shafted big time. You know, when you think about a stormtrooper who, you know, doesn't like what they're doing and decides to leave the First Order, that's interesting. That's crazy. You didn't see that in the original trilogy or even the prequels. This was something that was cool. And they made him a guy that just needed Rey to help him constantly, and he would yell, "Rey! Rey!" and make dumbass comments. So you fly now? They didn't know what they were doing. It's a damn shame. But let me know in the comments your thoughts. Star Wars, current state, 10 years, almost 10 years since Disney acquired Lucasfilm. And in that regard, Star Wars, How have they been in your eyes? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear it. With all that, guys, thank you so much for watching today's show. Normally Ken is here. He did jump on for a little bit. Didn't have a great connection, so he left. Colton couldn't make it. He's moving and working and all that jazz. But thank you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit that notification bell to get more from me and everyone else at Bridging Geekdoms. We got a lot of stuff coming up. So make sure you check us out. Hopefully get some more interviews lined up and released, because that's one of my favorite things to do is interview people. So I love doing that. But yeah, make sure you hit like, subscribe, all that jazz. Follow us on all the socials at Twitter at Bridge Geekdoms. You can find us on Facebook, Bridge Geekdoms, Instagram, all that jazz. Find us there, TikTok, all that. With all that said, guys, talk to all of you later.